Welcome back to the Lunch Hour with Mr. Credit. And today it's Macro Monday on ESPN Radio 1700.
All right, welcome back. Macro Monday, Mr. Credit here. Seth O'Byrne, John Jerotz, JJ in the studio with me today. Fellas, it is about that time for me to re-enter the real estate market. Now, JJ, you schooled me on the man with the yellow hat. I don't know if he has a name. Curious George's daddy.
I don't think, I think he's just the man with the yellow hat.
The man with the yellow hat.
Pretty sure.
Now, he has it right in my mind, because my ultimate dream is to have what he had, which is a country home, a place out there on 5-10 acres out in the middle of nowhere, and then a condo in downtown where you can live and be there throughout the week, and then on the weekend you go to your sanctuary and you unwind and unplug. The man with the yellow hat has that.
Yes, he does.
He has
He's got it down right.
Like a Manhattan apartment,
yep,
and then like a farm.
Yep.
Where he teaches Curious George how to grow carrots and things like that.
You betcha. Raise tadpoles.
So, wait, am I to understand this correctly, that you're developing your real estate plan based off of Curious George book?
I didn't know
I
I
read
was.
Dr. Seuss. I'm not saying anything bad.
I didn't know I was.
Book, show,
I just
everything.
found out that I was. Yeah. I don't know if that was planted in my brain 2 or 3 decades ago, JJ. But that's what I would like. And to me, that's the real dream.
Yeah, that's great.
So we're going to start in downtown. And I do want to talk about chronology as well, JJ, with residency and so forth, because that clearly matters. But when you're just simply looking in an area, there are a few things I think you have to do when you're a home buyer in today's market. And those are the things that I'm doing right now. I mean, I would call them 3 must-dos. I think you have to spend some time yourself becoming familiar with the market. And, Seth, that's so easy to do now with the drips that you can set up and the searches and the parameters.
Sure.
And Seth has got me set up right now on one of those drips. And basically, I get an email every day, and it tells you, based on my search parameters and the area and the square foot that I want, and the bedrooms and bathrooms and all that, here's all the properties that are for sale. If anything's news come up, boom, it's right there. If something has a price reduction, boom, it's right there. And you can just save the favorites, save the ones you like, so you can go back and revisit those. And what I think just dedicating some time to doing that does is it gives you a personal feel for the market. And the advantage to that is you'll know when you see a deal. You'll go, ooh, well, that's a good deal. It's only 1 block from this one over here, and that one's $40,000 more, and this one also has a pool. You'll actually be able to see that and know it yourself. So you can't become a real estate agent. You can't do that. But you can become a semi-expert in the little area which you're looking in. Now, Seth, I'm really, really into East Village.
Sure.
I've lived there for the last 3.5 years. I also lived there for 1.5 years previously when the ballpark first opened up. And I really believe that it is an area of town that not only has opportunity for price appreciation, but has opportunity for a continually increasing lifestyle advantage, which you don't really necessarily get in places that are already what they are.
Sure. Like
the gas lamp. It kind of is what it is, right? If you buy a condo in a gas lamp, in my mind, it is what it is. You're not going to see any new buildings really coming up over there. Not a whole lot's going to change. A few businesses will come and go, but for the most part, it already is what it is. East Village, however, while there aren't going to be any new buildings moving any closer to Petco, they are still kind of pushing the edge. We call it the riffraff. They're kind of still pushing the riffraff east and out of the way. And if you really want to accumulate wealth in real estate, how do you do it? Well, you buy on the outskirts, and then you wait until it becomes the center of town, and then you sell it, right? That's how guys did it back in Missouri. They bought farmland. Then all of a sudden Walmart knocked on their door one day and wanted to build a shopping center, and they got paid. Well, you can do that in downtown, Seth. You can actually make that happen.
You certainly can.
You can see where the outskirts are. You can see where the buildings are taking place, where the buildings are going up, and you know what the plans are for the future. I mean, by 2020, downtown San Diego, you think it's a crazy difference, from 2000 to now? Wait until you see it 5-6 years from now. It's going to be crazy. What do you think, Seth, about my theory on East Village and kind of looking on the outskirts there?
I think the man with the yellow hat would be really proud. You're buying the farmhouse and it's turning into the Manhattan high-rise. But in all seriousness, I think it's a great plan. I think what we don't have the ability to do anymore, because most of these lots are owned, is go out to Barrio Logan and buy a big plot of land.
Yeah.
I just even 6-7 years ago, I was running around with investors looking at the outskirts of what we call East Village, or you call the riffraff. Mm-hmm. And those communities had a lot of opportunity to hold on to land until someone wanted to develop it, make you an offer you can't refuse. Nowadays, you can do something similar, which is buy in an eastern building with the knowledge that that East Village building is going to be in the center of what is the new East Village.
Right.
Something on 11th or 12th or even Park nowadays seems like kind of the edge of where East Village happens. But with all the developments that are going on all the way out east to the 5 freeway, that's going to be the center of town. And my belief is whether or not we do get a professional football stadium downtown San Diego, there are going to be so many reasons to be downtown in the East Village, we might not even need it.
Yeah, we'll look at the convention center, $100 million expansion. That's something where you're going to continue to see growth. You are going to see, the convention center and its uses continue to be bigger and bigger things. I mean, Comic-Con is a big deal, don't get me wrong, but there are bigger conferences out there too. And then you're also seeing, like, we have Sempra Energy is building their new headquarters.
Yeah, on the corner of 7th and J.
Yeah, 7th and J, and that's going to be a pretty darn big high-rise. That's going to bring, a lot of jobs into downtown. Those types of things are happening over and over. Let me give you an example. Metrome, okay? Metrome is right across the street from the brand new library, which, by the way, the brand new library is not the old library. They aren't letting things go down the way they used to. And we talked about the reason, how they got away with that on the show before, but basically, there aren't any bums sleeping on the sidewalk at the new library. It's not happening. So Metrome, right across the street from the library, kind of in the East Village right now, sure. Right? Low HOAs, about under $400 a month HOAs. I think there's a lot of opportunity in Metrome, Seth.
I think there is too. Metrome's a beautiful building. They have unique units, and it's right between the law school and the downtown library.
Good point. Sandwiched between the two.
Yeah, it's right between the two. That means I believe you look at Silicon Valley around Stanford or La Jolla and UTC around UCSD. Anytime you have a major higher learning institution and real estate, that real estate's going to do well. It's just hard not to. And you couple with that the fact that it's across the street from Petco Park and it's right in the heart of East Village and downtown, I think it's going to be hard not to win.
Yeah, I think Metrome is one of those buildings that there's just a lot of opportunity. I still believe Park Terrace is the same way as well. In Park Terrace, you could literally throw a paper airplane onto the baseball field from Park Terrace, and it's got low HOAs and yet still has some of the least expensive units available per square foot in downtown. That just doesn't make any sense to me.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, that's opportunity just knocking on the door right there. And you have behind Park Terrace now. So Park Terrace is literally sandwiched between Icon, the ballpark, and the new library. I mean,
yeah.
And if there were a new Charger Stadium built in downtown, would be, by the way, the closest building to where they would be building that. So you want to talk about opportunities down there. There are abundant. And it's interesting to me to watch it happen because I've been down there for so many years. And you watch these buildings go up. You see the cranes, and these buildings going up. And right before your eyes, the thing's transforming. So it's not hard to see where it's going. The question is just, do you have a vision? Does it make sense for you? For me, it does. Because I want to live like the man in the yellow hat, JJ. I think he has the life. I want to get a little monkey, too. And I'm going to teach him to be super smart.
Is that part of the plan? Do we have to work?
Do we have to look at the
HOAs? Yeah, do we have to see if that's allowed in the CCNRs of these buildings? I don't think you can have a monkey in most of these HOAs, just so you know.
The HOAs downtown might be a little strict. Speaking of, here's what we're going to do when we come back. Well, you're going to buy one of these things. You either got to have the casholas or you got to get money from a guy like JJ, which is what I'm going to do. So when we come back, let's talk about that, JJ. Let's talk about the strategy aspect of the residency, how to deal with the HOAs, and I also want to talk about how the HOAs, I have noticed, are affecting the prices of the different homes available for sale in downtown. It's your lunch hour, Mr. Credit. We'll be right back.
If you would like free advice from Mr. Credit, just call or text 619-786-7853. That's 619-786-7853.
Welcome back to the Lunch Hour with Mr. Credit. And today it's Macro Monday on ESPN Radio 1700.
All right, welcome back on a Macro Monday. Mr. Credit here. Seth O'Byrne in the house from the O'Byrne team. SethSold.com. Also, John Jerotz, JJ in here from AskJJNow.com. What an amazing place for sale, Seth. I don't know how you got this listing, buddy, but this is incredible. Rancho Santa Fe. It's a $4 million house, okay? But this is like everyone's dream home. Basically, is what
my
this
dream
is.
home.
I mean, who wouldn't want to live in this place? Infinity pool, ocean view, sunset, facing west. What can you tell us about this amazing place?
It's a great house. There's a very famous architect. His name is Dan Castellero, and the homeowners who are selling the home had this home custom built for them by Dan Castellero in Cielo, which is a very exclusive gated community in Rancho Santa Fe. And this is on one of the very highest peaks of Cielo. So you're sitting in Rancho Santa Fe looking west. You can see the ocean, and then the sun sets behind Catalina in the summers.
Oh, my goodness.
So the island of Catalina on a clear day lights up like a jewel. So I was sitting there yesterday. In fact, we just came on the market Friday, and I was showing it to two brokers and their clients all day yesterday. And we were watching sailboats coming from the Pacific coastline all the way out to Catalina. You could see people on their entire trek to Catalina from the West Coast.
That's incredible. So this came on the market Friday, and you already had people looking at it Saturday?
We sure did, yeah.
How long do you think something like this will be on the market, a house like this in today's market?
That's a good question. So that price point typically, because obviously there's not everybody, not every listener, not every person running around looking to buy real estate can afford $4.25 million. At the same time, good opportunities do get snatched up. So you can see homes in the $4 million range sell in a month, but typically 180 days is more normal.
Okay.
So 6 months to 8 months is more typical.
You should check out these pictures if you ever dream big, or if you would just like to see what an amazing house is supposed to look like. Go to SethSold.com and look up the one. How do they find this on your website, Seth? Do you just look for the?
It's on our front page of our SethSold.com website, and it is the first blog post. We actually have a video we did. We actually got in a helicopter and flew over the property and created a whole video. Inside and outside, we flew a remote-controlled video camera through the property, as if a bird kind of flew through.
A drone?
A drone.
Wow.
And it's beautiful. The video's great. It really showcases the home. It shows the ocean views and 6,800 square foot sprawl. It's on 3 acres. It's real fun to watch.
3 acres. Wow.
Yeah. That's your farmland right there.
That is your farmland.
Maybe that's the next one you should buy.
Can we? Well, I have to fit. Did the man in the yellow hat have a place like this?
No,
too,
no, definitely not. Definitely not. His country home has a squirrel living in the attic. So obviously, I watched too much Curious George and know way too much about the man with the yellow hat.
Well, I would just recommend that you take a look at this place. I know most people can't afford, $4.2 million, but hey, we can all dream, and we can all certainly take this in while it's available for us to see it. This is the type of thing most of us don't get the chance to see. Go to SethSold.com to check it out. Well, it's not part of my real estate strategy, but it might be a part of someone else's. Let's talk about mine for a second, JJ, because obviously you're talking about buying 2 different homes. First of all, there's got to be some sort of occupancy strategy in place for that. So how would that work? Because there's a difference between a primary home, a secondary residence or second home, and an investment property. I don't plan to rent either property out in the long run. So how do you best work around the occupancy situation?
Well, that's a really good question. And I think, in the last few years, at least since the housing crash, occupancy has become one of the biggest challenges to overcome with underwriting, even when the occupancy is real. And I'll give you an example. Let's say you find your country home in Fallbrook.
Okay.
I'll just throw that, Fallbrook. And now you want the second home downtown. Well, it has to make sense in some level, right? Because there has to be some sort of distance between the two homes. Where's your job located? What's going to pull you to that second home because, a second home by San Diego State probably doesn't make sense. A second home downtown where you have the ballpark, where you have the marinas, where you possibly could have, the future Charger Stadium, that makes more sense than a second home by San Diego State.
Okay.
And it's just a locational type of thing. If you buy your country home in Poway, now you're a little closer to that downtown home. It becomes a little bit more of a challenge. All right. Now you're 20 minutes away, maybe 25 minutes away. So the occupancy does have to make sense on some level, or it does get questioned quite a bit.
What's the difference financing wise? Just real quick, from if I'm buying a second home. Does that change the credit standards, down payment amounts? What difference does that make?
Well, you definitely have more flexibility buying a second home compared to an investment property. Let's just start with interest rate. You're going to get a more favorable interest rate when it comes to second home compared to investment property. Down payment, you can come in with 10% down on a second home compared to a minimum 20% down for an investment property. So there's definitely some differences there. We're talking about condos. Even from a condo perspective and obtaining condo warranty, we talk about occupancy rates in these condo complexes or high rises downtown. With a second home, you don't really have to care about occupancy issues too much. With an investment property, you need a 51% occupancy, owner occupancy in that project. So there's a lot of differences.
Okay. Did you have something you want to say?
Yeah, there is a minimum mile distance that they now underwriters obviously make exceptions, but is it right at something like 50 miles or 30 miles from one property to the other, or is it just if you sell the story to the underwriter you get it?
Mileage really doesn't. You could say there's a 50-mile gap, but somebody in Poway could definitely want a second home on the ocean in Del Mar or Pacific Beach.
Sure.
If there's family, if there's a child. There's a lot of different ways to sell it. Maybe you work downtown. I'll give you an example. I had a single woman who's an attorney, works downtown, spends most of her time downtown. She bought a house up in the North County in Vista last year, and later that year bought herself a downtown condo as a second home because she works down there. It makes sense.
She's doing the man in the yellow hat
She
plan.
is, in some really capacity, yeah. She doesn't have the monkey, though.
She needs to work on that.
Yeah. So it just, you do have to have the story to sell. And I think it gets a little bit convoluted, especially when somebody owns investment properties already. And I know you don't own investment properties, but let's say you have a couple investment properties, and now all of a sudden you want this second home. That becomes a big question mark because the most likely you might be renting that out.
Yeah.
So everybody's situation is a little bit different. And if it makes sense, you have to really spell it out and have it make sense to fly.
Yeah, and when you talk about, especially HOAs, when you're buying a condo downtown, Seth, you're really beholden to, all right, well, what does the HOA allow? Because it's not like buying your own house where, you can walk out, the back porch and take a leak if you feel like it. It's not going to happen in downtown. If I peed off my deck, I could get fined.
Or kicked out.
Or kicked out. So it's a little bit different situation. But that said, for example, in M2I, which is where I live now, you can't smoke on the patios, which is a great rule. Sounds great. We wanted that to happen. But now what happens is people smoke inside, and we can still smell it. It still gets in through the vents. There's just no way around it.
Sure.
So that's kind of the difference in why you need a governing body in the HOA. But also, Seth, whether these HOAs are being sued or involved in litigation, that also matters too.
Yeah, of course it does. It all does. And I think lenders are smart to look at these things. Owner occupancy matters. Typically, people who own the homes that they live in, they keep better care of the properties, and generally that keeps the values higher. So it makes sense. Also, a non-owner occupied unit, say it's a rental, someone's going to walk away from a rental far before they're going to walk away from something that they're raising their family in or they're living their life out in. And so also it brings the foreclosure risk a lot lower. And good CC&Rs and no litigation is a statement that the property and the HOA is in better health. So I think
give me some buildings downtown that are in litigation right now.
So the Mark Doug Wilson built both Park Loft, then sold that off, and then the next lot past that, it's a whole city block, is what the Mark is built on. It actually has its own street, 800 the Mark Lane.
That's
that
an
runs
amazing
right through
building.
it. Gorgeous building. Unfortunately, that's in litigation. You have Levita just came out of litigation. Icon just slipped into litigation. And Park Terrace, I believe, is in the process of coming out of litigation.
So when it's in litigation, JJ, what does that do? Does that mean financing is impossible, or does that mean it's just more challenging?
Definitely, financing is not impossible because there are lenders out there and banks who will do loans with condos in litigation. So, definitely obtainable. It may not be your perfect option for financing, but there is financing available.
Rates specifically, right?
Rates specifically.
Okay.
Down payment typically specifically.
All right. And so if there is a building that is not in litigation, then that is kind of a green light that, hey, this is in good shape. But if you can buy in a building that maybe is in litigation, maybe that's where the opportunity lies, because when it comes out, then that might open the floodgates a little bit for it.
I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, litigation speculation is big business.
Really?
For high-rises along the whole West Coast. I'm sure when the East Coast was being built with high-rises, it was the same way. Construction defect litigation limits are up to 10 years, which means if you're a construction defect attorney and you need to sue a builder, you have 10 years to do it. So lo and behold, a lot of lawsuits happen right before that 10th year. Many of them happen in the first couple years. And so there is something to be said about if you know a building's in litigation, you feel confident it's going to come out. And obviously some of that information is secret. You can't know everything that's going on in that case. But if you believe that it's going to come out of litigation, there is something to be said about purchasing a property before it comes out of litigation, because typically the values tick up dramatically, sometimes upwards of 30%.
Whoa. And so I wasn't just pulling that out of nowhere.
Yeah,
that's actual real stuff. Well, I tell you what, I want to continue this downtown discussion. I mean, we have emails and stuff like that, but we got to continue to talk more about, not just what's down there now, but what the future of downtown looks like. And I'll specifically tell you about the analysis I pulled for 19201. Of course, we have these free reports that we use through MrCredit.org for anyone who has questions about different real estate markets. And I pulled up the one for 92101, and specifically with regard to condos, it told a completely different story than what I thought. When we come back, I'll tell you what that is. We'll make you smarter than everyone else, guaranteed.
If you would like free advice from Mr. Credit, just call or text 619-786-7853. That's 619-786-7853.
Welcome back to the Lunch Hour with Mr. Credit. And today it's Macro Monday on ESPN Radio 1700.
All right, welcome back. Macro Monday, Mr. Credit here. Seth O'Byrne in the house from the O'Byrne team and SethSold.com. Go there and check out this listing in Rancho Santa Fe. This is one of those homes I'm sure a movie star or a professional athlete or someone will buy, someone who has a lot of money. It's a $4 million house. May not be for you, but you should check out the pictures. SethSold.com. Of course, also joining us today, John Jerotz, JJ, VP of Mortgage Lending with Guaranteed Rate and top 1% in the nation 3 years in a row. We're still streaming on MrCredit.tv, but you only have a few minutes left if you want to see all three of our pretty faces. Well, I should say two pretty faces and then one guy in a polo. So, Seth, I've been looking at the stuff in downtown, and I tell you, I'm that bad buyer. I'm that guy who always wants it cheap. I don't know if everyone's like that, but I always want to get a good deal, and I desperately want to get a good deal. Like, if we go to the store, Nikki will find something she wants to buy immediately, and I want to look at 3 or 4 other stores. That's just how we are, I guess. And when I first started looking at condos in downtown, especially in East Village, I felt like they were overpriced. I feel like these condos should be $400,000. They're $475,000. They're overpriced. So I went and pulled the reports, especially in 92101, and what I found was that the actual averages that we're looking at here show that it's more of a buyer's market than the amount of inventory would lead you to believe, based on the Market Action Index, which is coming in at a 9.6. That's a strong buyer's market, according to our reports from Alto's research. And also $514 a square foot being the average cost per square foot, where most of these places I'm looking at are $450 or less. So I was kind of, didn't want to necessarily bore people with numbers today.
Sure.
But when I did look to that for some confirmation of my initial thoughts, I turned out to be incorrect. Do you feel like the low inventory circumstance in downtown is going to dissipate? Do you feel like we're going to see more homes coming on the market? Or do you think that it will still kind of remain in this semi-seller's market for a while?
That's a great question. And I think what what will help you answer that question, help you understand these numbers that you just talked about, is if you segment the prices and the unit mix that was originally built in 92101, or at least built over the last 10 years that we've been building the Skyline, what you're going to find is there is a glut of high-end large units that, just like that $4 million house, doesn't fit everybody's lifestyle. A 2,500 square foot condo is all well and good, but when you tack on a $1.8 million list price, there's only so many people that can afford that, and the $1,200 a month HOA associated with it. Everybody wants a $400,000 two-bedroom condo. That is the market. Everyone who's downtown, they're young, they're starting their first business, or they're in their first 10 years of their business, or they're just not looking to overshoot because they live downtown and they have a very active downtown lifestyle. They're going to restaurants and bars and going to Padres games every single week. That person is probably also traveling too, which is why they want to live near the airport. So that person's going to be looking at a $400,000 to $500,000 price tag. That particular unit, there's only so many of those actually built, especially in the East Village. And that's, I think, when you break down the numbers, you're going to see the inventory and the market time is going to be a lot higher in the high end. There's going to be much more negotiation when it comes to list price as opposed to what the final sales price is. And you're going to see it's much more of a buyer's market. Unfortunately, inventory's always been tight in that $300,000 to $500,000 price point. I would even venture to say it would feel like a seller's market even a year and a half, 2 years ago, when we all know it was truly a buyer's market.
That's interesting right there. I will tell you this, though. In the searches, because we took the bedroom restriction off the search so I could find, the open lofts and stuff like that, too, that might fit our criteria, there are some one-bedrooms, that are in the threes and some in the low threes that are still in the 900-plus square foot range. I think those are really, really good deals. When you're talking about being able to get something for, $350, $330 a foot, in a market where the average is $514, even though it's a one bedroom, and maybe those are valued a little bit less because they're harder to rent or whatever it may be, it still seems to me like a one bedroom. If you want to go with the man in the yellow hats theory and you just don't need two bedrooms, then you could potentially go buy a piece of downtown San Diego and get a really good deal on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And they built a lot of one bedrooms for that reason as well. If you look at the demographics of downtown, it's A, empty nesters, B, people buying their first condos, or C, people buying properties that they're intending to rent out and maybe use it as lifestyle a couple years down the road when they retire. Most of my clients that sell one bedrooms are looking in that category. And you'd see that one bedrooms actually do sell very well. In the last 10 years, they've appreciated quite a bit. You being a full-time 92101 resident, you want that second bedroom, of course. That makes sense for the growth of your family, for your office.
I got a little girl. She's 7.
Yeah.
She's just going to get bigger.
So you have your monkey.
I do,
you
kind
do.
of.
No, you do. That's,
yeah. I am teaching her.
She does talk.
She likes Curious George. That's for sure. It is easy because she does talk. You did mention that. I got it easier than the man in the yellow hat trying to communicate with the monkey.
Yes.
So I think there's a lot of reasons to be downtown. I think one bedrooms are always good buys. It's a highly urban area. You look at New York City, you already have you have studios that are on the market for 2 hours before they sell with 20 offers.
Well, and what I mean, and the point I really wanted to hit home with that one bedroom is that there are one bedroom, there are studios down there that are 400 or 500 square feet that are, for $275 or whatever. You can find those. But there are one bedrooms that are 930 square feet, that are $330,000. That is a steal. That's a steal. And there may not be a huge market for that particular buyer at this moment, and that's why it's such a good deal. I don't know, but I can tell you that there's no question if that is in your strategy or you'd like to own in downtown, there are properties that you can get that are steals.
Absolutely.
So I might be sitting here telling you, hey, there's only 3 houses that fit my criteria down there and inventory's low and all that, but that doesn't mean there aren't deals. It just means there aren't deals for me, the guy who wants what everybody else wants. If it's the case that you're, a single guy, or maybe you just want to get away. I know several people who live in M2I. Their place is just a getaway. They live up north, some of them in Orange County. They come down for the weekend. They go to a couple Padres games. They just hang out in downtown San Diego. They kind of do the opposite of what I want to do with my strategy. But you could do that too. I just think it's not to be ignored. A lot of the old money and people who've been in San Diego for a long time, they think downtown is still where, there's a fish market or something like that. They still think it's the Fisherman's Wharf. It's not. It's an amazingly beautiful place, and there's tons of wealth growing down there, and I just want to make sure that you are aware of it. What do you think, JJ? House in Liebenhain, condo in downtown.
I think it's great. And, you get your boat, and I'll come down and visit you on the boat. Even better.
Then we can both wear yellow hats.
Yes.
How does that sound? All right, great stuff today, fellas. Really appreciate you both being here and all of your expert advice.
As always, I'm very happy to be here.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot. Danny, great job running the show today. Stick around. Lori Miller, Real Radio Now, is coming up next, 1 to 3 p.m. We'll see you tomorrow at noon to make you smarter than everyone else.
If you would like to contact Mr. Credit or access any free offers mentioned on the show, just go to MrCredit.org. That's MrCredit.org.